Okay. I think we are live now. I think. Let me know if we're actually live. I will warn you, my computer might be slightly slow right now, so if this seems weird, let me know. But if so, it'll get better soon. My computer is just finishing up exporting an hour and 15-minute long video, and it is at 100%, but we'll see. We'll see. It should finish in just a minute, but if there's any problems, let me know. Let me try to pull it up on my phone and see if it looks bad there, but I think you should be able to hear me. Okay, yes, you can hear me. I am live. It is fine. Okay, brilliant. Then I'm going to just ignore Premiere Pro entirely. I just finished editing the next part in the cultural and societal world building guide, which is going to be like Middle Ages and broken down into a lot of eras. And it's not as bad as Rocks, but it's close. So yeah, I'm a little tired today. Okay, wait, that just finished. So let me close that so that we're good to go. But I have a few quick things to go over before we get started, which oh, you're watching the last one yesterday? Well, you're in luck then. It's a little chunky. It's fun though. It gets into a lot of stuff about empires and motivations on, why they could expand in different ways and motivations and fragmentation and going from having a very I don't want to say impersonal, but like a super basic map of just something to something that's actually been influenced by people and has changes and history and choices and conflict and it's a lot happens. So I'm very excited about it. Hello, Aaron. Welcome. Yes, so that's going to be exciting. That is going to go live on Thursday on my new channel, which will be Madeline James World Builds. I think you've all heard or seen about that. I'm going to have an announcement video on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, that video will go live on the new channel. And from that point forward, all of these Conlanging streams are going to be on the other channel. So I'll start scheduling the next ones later this week once I've actually started making things on that channel live, because it exists already, but it's not. None of the videos on it are live yet. Oh, hello, Aaron. Hello. Thelhawan? Thelhawan? Is that correct? Oh no, you have to do finals. Oh no. This is going to be a fun one too, but finals are more important. Priorities, right? And hello there. And yes, Aaron, there's going to be a new channel that I'm moving all the world building heavy stuff over to as I go full time. So everything's going to be, there'll be more time to do things. And also I've realized that the fact that my normal channel right now has such a small amount of the content that is world building only, but such a large percentage of my viewership is world building only, kind of kills the rest of my content. And I want to be able to have fun and do both. So we're splitting it. Hello, Bavilia. All right. So yes, I've given that warning. If you haven't seen, hello, Emma. Wow, we're busy today. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different, which is we are going to be doing a attempt at a Conlang relay. And the purpose of this is because I have been given, oh yeah, because there's an Aaron and an Aaron. Yeah, it's confusing. Sorry. I'm very distractible today because I've been editing videos for so many hours and filming for so many hours this weekend. But we are going to attempt a Conlang relay to get a general idea of whether or not I think I'm capable of doing one yet. I think one day I'll get there, but whether today is the day or, the next few months is the time is yet to be determined. I have been approached about potentially joining a Conlang relay, and I am very skeptical that it would not be a horrible, horrible mistake. So that is why we were doing this. And if I did end up doing it, I'd be able to get a little bit of assistance from people not in the relay, just because I know nothing and I'm elementary at all things. But oh, you'd love to be in a Conlang relay? Yeah. Okay, so a Conlang relay is sort of like a game of Conlang telephone. So there's a lot of them online. There's a recent one that Conlangery hosted, if you check that out. If someone wants to throw that in the comments or link one down below, go for it. But essentially you start with a text that the first person creates. Usually it's short, sometimes it's longer than expected, but this year's gonna be, like, more concise. And then that is, translated into that person's Conlang, and then that translation, along with a grammar and a vocabulary, typically restricted to what's relevant, that all is handed to the next person in the relay. So then they have to take the grammar and the vocabulary and translate that out into English, and then do the same thing and translate it into their Conlang, and then pass it on. And this keeps going and going down through the relay until, you know, you get to the end where someone translates it back into English and they look at the shenanigans, and normally the whole thing goes live at like the same time. So it's across a bunch of different like channels. Yes, as Nemo's pointing out, the last Conlangry one went places. It did, but I have been assured that this year it is going to be less crazy. There are things being put in place to make sure that does not happen again. It went down a weird path at the first huddle. Yeah, they were kind of screwed from the beginning. But yes, so I don't know if I'm ready to do that. Both because I don't know if I understand language well enough, and I don't know if my Conlang, which as you all know is really a spell language right now that I'm starting to expand a little bit more. Like, I don't know if I could, like, if it's complete enough that I could reasonably do it. Because you normally only have, I think we'd have like 3 days to do your portion. So you have to do the translation and then the retranslation into your stuff. And there is always inevitably going to be things that you have not figured out in your language, like lots of new words you have to create, and also entire parts of your grammar that you might have to create that you didn't have before. So like you need to be prepared to do all of that in like 3 days. But yes, that is why you all are here. And he did say that if I agreed to do it, I could get some help from some people potentially as a special, as long as they're not in the Conlang and nothing is public, potentially. So yes, we have something that I've pulled. Oh wait, real quick, everybody. I did talk to Jesse about some notes for my spell language, for the language, which I'm just gonna, without going through it, I'm just gonna tell you real quick what it is. But basically, I don't actually need copulas because I have a reflexive verbalizer, which kind of takes the place of needing the copula. And then we also figured out that my clauses, instead of having mood verbs, I'm going to have an imperative. Is imperative the one that's like a command? Is that the right word? But essentially, I'm going to have a particle for it, and that's sort of how I'm going to do it. So it's going to stay very similar to what I have now, but not be overcomplicated, and I don't have to go into a ton of clause stuff. So we're actually have a lot more than we thought we do. Let's see. Who is talking? Yes, imperative. Aaron, thank you. Hello there asks who's hosting it. So the one I might do is the Conlangery one. You'd love to do a relay with. I can't pronounce that because it has fun grammar. Yeah. Yeah, so it would all be fun. But now let's focus on this relay. And the goal here is I'm totally fine with you all helping me translate this out to an extent, right? Because we're not going to spend 3 days on stream right now. That's not happening. I don't have the energy for that. So we're going to try and translate it out real fast. We might only translate 1 or 2 of the sentences depending on how long it's taken. And then we're going to move over to trying to put this in my language. And again, mostly we're going to be forming like a to-do list and thinking about the structure and how it would work, because we're not going to, again, spend 3 days doing this, but getting an idea of how much I would have to do just to translate this into my language will kind of give me an idea of whether or not I think it would be a horrible, terrible, very bad, no good idea. But yes, all right. Okay, hold on. Bado de la Toes. Toes. As a rough guide. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm also, if anything involves having to look at IPA, I would just fail miserably because I can't read it, but I suppose that's what notes and stuff are for. All right, so let me pull this up. I think that's a little better. So I pulled this from the fancy Google, which it is essentially just Konstraken. I think it's like German, maybe? I don't know. But it's Relay 11, Daranese leg, and from someone named Rebecca Harbinson. So I think this part isn't theirs. They were translating this and then turning it into something else. And this link here has the translation in it. I kind of like squinted my eyes a little bit and just copied the bits I cared about. So we can go back and check how awful of a job we did after the fact, although it's only comparing what we did based off what they did. We'd have to go back and find the last relay to see what it actually was, but that is irrelevant. And I picked this one specifically because the grammar is very concise. In theory, it's just the pieces we need, and the vocab is very concise, just the pieces we need. So I'm hoping this means it'll be relatively easy. But we'll see, because I don't want to be scrolling through tons and tons of stuff. But I think what people typically do is they'll take like sentence by sentence and then just kind of figure out what those pieces are and break it down, right? Oh, that's in German. I translated as art, speech, or language. Okay, that makes sense, Greg. Okay. So I think we probably need to look at the grammar first. So the overall, oh wait, hold on. Before we get started, Aaron had a question. Will you do world building streams on the second channel? So I'm definitely going to be doing Patreon world building streams. There might be occasional world building streams on the second channel. It'll depend. I haven't quite figured all that content out yet, but there will be weekly world building live streams on my Patreon at the very least, and still conlanging live streams on the main channel. I'm not planning on doing the conlanging stuff via the Patreon. It'll be on the main channel there. Okay, so the overall syntax of Dirence is SVO. Also, I'm going to butcher all the pronunciation for this, which if we go over to my grammar, because I can never remember, I am also SVO. Convenient. The verbs are conjugated based on politeness level and evidentiality. Only the authoritative position, nye, is used here. Okay, so you're presumably this is talking to someone with authority then. The imperative tense, so a command, naira, is also used heavily in cases where it is used multiple times or in which the subject is indefinite. The subject may be understood. Okay. And then the suffix here, actually, let me mark these so that they stand out a little bit more easily as we're doing the translation. Yeah. So the suffix real is used to turn a verb into a participle. This also can be used to make compound verbs, identifying clauses, or occasionally adjectives. Okay. Yes, Aaron, I think I agree with you. The authoritative position sounds to me like the person talking is the authority. I agree. I think that's the case. To create a conditional sentence. So if this, whatever, right? The suffix cow is attached to the end of the verb, stating the condition. The next sentence must begin with kebeni because of this. Adjectives and adverbs precede the word they modify, and adjectives and adverbs precede the words they modify and change ending to match the gender of the noun. Dyranes has 10 genders. Only one object, so -e, is used in this text. So that's why I like this one, right? Because it tells you the high level, but then only tells you what's specifically used in this text, which is easier for me who knows nothing. Adverbs are left in the root forms. Note that these rules are also used on participles. A noun is pluralized by attaching al- to it as a prefix. An indirect object is indicated by the suffix -cool and is usually attached to the verb. Okay, so my first inclination here is to kind of go through this text, kind of break it out into lines, and maybe we take like the first piece here, and just highlight where all of these pieces are and replace them out just to kind of isolate what might be the verbs and the nouns. That's my thought here. So I'm going to copy this, and this will be the original part. And then I feel like there's a term that they use for like mixing it in. Oh yeah. Bavilia says it's very nice of the author to scare you with how bad they could make it and then tell you how they're being nice instead. Yes, exactly. And I do know that in a real one, you can't really expect them to necessarily be nice to you like this. I've heard that sometimes people think it is fun to try and make it as hard as possible, which, like, is a different kind of challenge, and, like, if that's what you're into, that's what you're into, but this will be easier for us. Okay, so this is the first sentence piece that's together. So let's call this translation work. Aaron says, I personally would go quite middle of the road. Yeah, I like the idea of it being like, you have it, like, you don't need to include tons of extra stuff. Like, I'd want to keep it concise, but not like, completely psycho bananas. Okay, so we are looking for these things. Okay, so let's take that. Let's copy it again. And let's look for these pieces. So I think I can just do, oh, the imperative tense is just the longer form. So this is, this here would be imperative. I'm gonna forget what all these abbreviations mean pretty quickly. Okay, so real. So we have, this is used to turn a verb into a participle. So participle, we'll go with that. And then RILE, it's a verb that is a participle. So verb to participle. Verb to participle. Hello, Seb. We're attempting a Conlang relay. That's essentially what is happening. And then I assume the -e, only one object, so the object gender. So I assume this is saying, since there's just an e at the end here, that this is an object. So we're gonna go object, ? Yes, okay. So then we have cow, which is not used in this section, and kibeni, which is also not used in this section. So we don't have to worry about anything conditional here, I guess. And then a noun is pluralized by adding al, which, whoa. Oh, I think this is a false friend here. Yirl isn't a verb, but an adjective. Oh, right, because doesn't it say, okay, hold on. RIL is used to turn a verb. This can also be used to make compound verb. Okay. So let's do be used to make compound verbs, identifying clauses, or occasionally adjectives. So 3 questions means this thingy, which we're not sure what it is yet. So we'll just do 3 question marks is what that is, because it could be turning it into a participle, a compound verb, an identifying clause, or an adjectives. Good call. What were we doing? What was I looking at? AL being a pluralizer. So it would go as a prefix on a noun. So I don't think we have that in here at all. So we don't have to worry about that. And an indirect object is indicated by the suffix -kul, which I don't think we have in here either. Yeah. Okay. So that should be because the adjective coming before noun ends in -e. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would make sense. Bavilia, the adjective that comes before noun ending in e, that would probably make sense. All right, so I think this is all the grammatical stuff in here. So then I think we just need to look in the vocabulary. So the first word is razy, which I think, it's alphabetical. So razy is to make or to prepare food. No, I appreciate your help, Bavilia, because the sooner we get through this, with me understanding what this process is like, the sooner that we can get to actually seeing how hard it would be to translate into mine. Although I do like that this uses imperative. because we've got imperative in my spell language. So this may be a deceptively easy one for us to do. Okay, so raise is to make or to prepare food. So to prepare food, and then ye, which is, oh wait, Yiril is good/well. So I think that's must already be incorporated here. So Yiril, so to prepare food, good/well. So I guess that's what, I guess, yeah, then that would be an adjective, right? So I guess ye probably means, I don't know, whatever they use to then turn it into an adjective. So then dash zastu, and we'd assume maybe this is a participle, which I don't remember what that is. It's fine. We'll figure it out. Zastu, let's go get that. Zastu is to taste. So let me put these good, well, taste. So I'm assuming that's good tasting. So to prepare food, probably like that is good tasting. But zastu relay, and then we have Zusai Bairedu. So let's go back down again. Zusai is meat. So Zusai is meat, which I started doing this and then stopped. So that's meat. This is good/well. And zastu is taste. And Rezi's to prepare food. So meat, and then we need bairedu, which is bairedu, bread, borrowed from English. Don't know what that means, but okay. Bread. So I assume this first part, to prepare food, so probably to prepare or to make good tasting meat bread. Oh, you think borrowed from English just means it's an in-universe loan word, but not the one being marked with the tense. A participle in English would be the running, I was running. Okay. Oh, meatloaf. That's smart. Ooh, meatloaf. Meat bread is meatloaf. I like it. Brilliant. Okay. Tasting. All right. So to make good tasting meatloaf. And then let's just move this down a hot stack. So Ninaus. So let's scroll down. Ninaus is ground or powdered. Ninaus. So we want ground. Oh, meat bread could also be a meat pie. That's a good point, Greg. Cybetre, which did we already use that word? No. Cybetre. Cybetre is grain. So grain, and then ram, which feel like I saw ram somewhere. Dash ram. And used to join nouns. So okay, there's a lot of and. So this and this and this. I assume this is a list, right? So we have and. So Eoba, A-E-O-B-A, vegetable oil. This is definitely a recipe of some form. Alba case, alba water, alba case, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. I don't see K's. Did I? Alba K's is salt. Salt, yes. Okay, yes. Thank you, Bavilio. Salt, and then bayao, mix, blend, place together. So we'll say mix/blend. So I assume to make good tasting meatloaf, blend or mix ground grains, which I assume is flour, right? Mix flour, vegetable oil, and salt, right? To make good tasting meatloaf. We'll add a pie. Mix flour, vegetable oil, and salt. I think that makes sense. Okay. So then the next line here is pure an cow. Let's see. Oh, wasn't there water too? No, I thought there was water, but then it turned out it was a longer word to mean salt, I think. So I assume it means like no water. Yeah, so alba is water and alba K's is salt. Because K's isn't in here. So I assume it means like something to do with water. Okay, so let's do the same thing with these three because they're short. So we know that dash ram is, although they had a dash here where these don't have a dash. So I'm not going to do that quite yet. But let's see. Nye, right, is authoritative. So maybe this is authoritative and. So let's do imp for imperative. And ram is and. And Niera is, oh wait, that's imperative. Imperative. Let's do AUTH for authoritative, I guess. Let's see, NYAE, that's the only place I see that. NYAE, oh wait, right here. So let's put authoritative here. Yay. Hello, Miles. Oh, you're working out? Wow. Way to make me look bad. Not really. I'm just kidding. But I did not work out today because I was editing an hour and 15-minute long video. But good luck with your workouts. RIL. I don't see that anywhere. KAO. Okay. To create a conditional. So COND. Conditional is attached to the verb, end of the verb stating the condition. Nyai cow is authoritative positive conditional sentence. Nyai cow. Yes. Authoritative. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. Then Kabeni. Okay, the next sentence must begin with Kabeni. So this is because of this. Because of this. Yeah, which follows the conditional. And then dash E is multiple. Wait, no. Object. So this could be that for an object, but I don't know for sure yet. We don't have AL and we don't have K-KUL. So let's start there. Okay, so Ipura, we didn't have that before, so Ipura, to need or to require. So need / require. And then we have Auba, which, did we have that before? No, we had Aoba instead of Auba, which are different. So AOBA, there's our water. Oh, right, yeah, Auba, right there. So water. And then LASE is to add. So to add Alba tray, is that? No. So alba, I feel like, is water unless this is another, yeah, dough or paste in a cooking context. So let's use dough. So dough and then teropa. Teropa. Let's go down to T's. Teropa elsewhere or not here. So elsewhere / not here. Nyo. Why does that look? Oh, it's similar to nye, but it's nyo. I don't think we had that before. So to put, to place, to set. Let's do to place or to put / place. I wonder if it's pizza. No, that wouldn't. Maybe it's pizza. Okay. So to make good tasting meatloaf or meat bread, mix flour, vegetable oil, and salt. And then there's a period, but maybe that's like whatever. You need, right? So, well, authoritative, conditional. If you, okay. So I feel like imperative is easy because just saying need imperative is like, you need this, right? You need. And then the conditional would be if you need, like, right? If you need or require. Okay, but we'll have to move these around. So if you require this one, then this, I think. Or do this because, hold on, it's SVO. It's similar to mine. Verb, object. So trying to think. I think the ordering of these. Let's do the rest of these real quick. Yeah, you might be right, Bavilia. You must rather than if. Okay, so because of this, water to add. So add water, I guess. Add an explanation point for funsies. So dough. Elsewhere. Okay, so dough and elsewhere and put it elsewhere. So if require, must, so add water, dough, and put it elsewhere. To add water, so I'm just trying to figure out if this goes in a different order, because this is all, like, they have periods to separate it. I wish I knew what the periods add. Oh, is it add to the dough got from elsewhere or previously made? Oh. So it might not be put it elsewhere, but to put / place. Place it elsewhere. Well, but isn't it to put, though? I do think that, Greg, what you have there of if required, add water. If required, add water to the dough and put it elsewhere, right? So, like, if you need to add more water, add it and then put the dough aside. I think that's what it's saying here. Dough which was set aside. Yeah, but didn't we just do that? Like, this is the dough that we made, right? Hello, Gregatron. So does the SVO mean the dough is the thing being put? Let's think about this. Well, because this, I assume, is like a clause, right? And that's why there's a period here. And put it elsewhere. Yeah, I think this means the dough is the thing being put. I think. So my guess here is this is because again it's marked by the clauses, right? I think that's what the periods mean. Does that make sense to anyone else? Um uh if needed, add uh if you need to, add water to the dough and put it elsewhere. So add water and dough. Yeah, because that and there actually, I think, kind of messes it up. I think this is saying because up here it was mix flour and no, and vegetable and salt. So I feel like the and kind of goes before. So dough and put it elsewhere. So maybe that still does make sense. So if you need to add water to the dough and put it elsewhere, I think that's maybe what it is. Maybe. Does someone, well, okay, hold on. If I take this and copy it, copy. Well, no, we're not cheating yet. We're not cheating. We're going to leave it like this. And I'm going to move this back up onto one line. And then we will oh yeah, maybe there is additional context after this. So let's go to the next one. This is what we just did is all of this. So which was in one line separated on the site. So it could be a like that could be a sentence. All right, so let's do the next line, which oh, there's a comma. They actually are using a comma. If it needs water, add to the dough and put it aside. Ooh, I think that could make sense. So if it needs water, add to the dough and put it aside. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So let's do this. Trying to see if there's anything that we've already have. We have the ands, right? We know what those are. We know what this means. So let's remember it's SVO, so the water goes with need, not and. So water goes with need. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so if it needs water, add. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So imperative tense is this. So IMP. Zusai. I don't see anything there. RILE. That's something. RIL turns a verb into a participle or compound verbs, clauses, adjectives, and then the E could make it an object. So if it's an object, we did this before. RILE, where it meant, yeah, it's just an adjective. So let's do adjective. A technical issue. Our dough did not contain any water. Initially, it was flour, oil, and salt. So I'm not sure if adding water would do anything. Maybe it's just you need to add water to the dough and put it aside. But then I'm not sure what the conditional is for. Or maybe it's just like, because I mean, the oil is a liquid. So maybe it's like if it's too dry. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what was I looking at? Yes, so RILE makes it an adjective. So then here, maybe water is implicit in dough. Could be for sure. I think this might be one of those things where like you kind of directly translate it out and then you probably have to go back and adjust it. Maybe something like it needs water because it needs water because a conditional can be used to state something that isn't currently the conditional can be used to state something that isn't currently the case. So it needs water, right? Because it doesn't currently have water. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yes. I think that's the thing. I was actually talking to Jesse about that on Friday because I was not tracking that, but it makes a lot of sense. So it needs water. So add to the dough, and this would be add water to the dough and put it aside. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I think that tracks and fixes all of our problems. Okay. I feel like we've seen albacaes before. Yeah, albacaes. So albacaes was salt. So albacaes is salt. Nira is imperative again. So we have that. So then we're left with these, which I feel like I haven't seen these before. So that's mix. We had it before. Oh, wait, which one is mix? Mix. Oh, yes, we did literally have that before. Yeah, yeah. Yes. Mix. And then to prepare food, good/well. Where is that? I feel like I'm missing it. We'll come back around to it. We'll come back around to it. Okay. So let's just go from here. RARU, which I feel like I can just be doing this. To bake or to cook. There we go. So bake or cook. And then Zusai. I feel like we have had that before. Is that the one that I missed? Oh, yeah, Zusai. Okay, that's what you're trying to tell me. So that is to prepare food, good tasting. This is meat bread. So the Zusai is meat, right? Or did we change the order of that? I think that's meat. So like to bake the meat, right? And then date is to cut or slice. So cut/slice. So, and it's imperative. So cut/slice the cooked meat. Cut the cooked meat. Oh yeah, this is sounding like a pie recipe. We've prepared the dough and now we're preparing the meat. I do hold that maybe this is the pizza. Although I don't think I've seen anything that suggests it has like pizza sauce and stuff. But I'm just picturing pepperoni pizza. But yeah, meat pie, cook the meat, the sliced meat. But the baking/cook is an adjective, so I don't think this is the verb. So it's the meat itself is cooked. I think we're assuming the meat is already cooked, unless I'm crazy. Because this is the command. So cut the cooked meat, I think. So then yaram, and used to join clauses. Okay, yeah, so they are clauses. They are clauses. Wow, I'm impressed with myself. So cooked the cooked meat, and we'll just do that for now. Or maybe we're making a sandwich. I don't know. Maybe, and you're making your own bread. Okay. Third person singular pronoun. So it, I guess. Third person. Wait. Yeah, it, right? Alignon, which Agnon. Okay, so A-L is, yes, okay, plural. So A-N-Y-O-N is onion. So this is plural onions. Yummy is it. Yeah, okay, so we're on the same page. Okay, so this is probably plural too. So plural, and then umba. No. Is there alumba? What is that? Oh, lumba is herb or spice. So I guess my guess is that if there's two L's, it gets just turned into one, would be my guess. And luminane. Is that just a... No, that's not a word all by itself. Luminane. So, oh, luminane. Luminane. Is that, did they, luminaine? Oh, it's just there's an E at the end. So a bit of. So a bit or pinch of, and then there's an E, which means it's an object. A gender, right? So object, gender. So cut the cooked meat, and so we'll get rid of this. And okay, and then let's see. We are mixing, so mix at the end. Mix it, and I assume it's being the cooked meat. Mix it and onions and herbs and wait. And but the ands normally go at the beginning. So we're mixing it, and but before the ands were always at the end, but they kind of went at the beginning, right? So like if we're saying meatloaf, meatloaf doesn't have an and at the end, right? The and goes before the flour. So I'm kind of confused why this doesn't have an and at the end, unless it has something to do with this. So a bit or pinch of. So mix it and onions and herbs. Herbs being a pinch of salt, maybe? I'm not sure if those are supposed to be separate. Pinch and herbs. Maybe it's and herbs, comma, a pinch of salt? Like, the herbs contain a pinch of salt, maybe? Maybe? And then, yeah, yes, mix / blend imperative. I don't think it's well, because when we had mix well, where was that? Yeah, I don't think it's well. Bayonera, mix / blend. Yeah. Mix, yes. Okay. Yes. So I think that's what we have so far. So that's the first two lines. So question, do you all think we should keep translating, or should we switch into trying to move this into my Conlang, or should we translate a little bit more? So cut the cooked meat and mix it with onions, herbs, and a pinch of salt is your guess. Okay, so maybe I'm misunderstanding where the ands go then, because I really would have thought that the and would be right here. Because when we had mix before, the last item had an and at the end. So I would have thought it would have been there. Okay, we're all saying translate the whole thing, and I think half of this is because we want to know what it is. I could sneak peek and like we'll check at the end probably, but I guess we'll say and a pinch of salt. But I feel like, you know, it shouldn't be there. So let's put this down here. I like that one. And then we have cut the cooked meat. We have onions, herbs. Cut the cooked meat and mix it with onions. Yeah, something like that. So that's what we have so far. Okay, yeah, everyone wants the whole thing. Okay. Okay, so we are at Hello Con, welcome. So we need this one next. Let's go down. We'll do that. All right, so we have this and this. And I can already see some things that we've done before. And there's a lot of stuff shared in between here. But we know that Niram means and we're linking our clauses. You think meatloaf loses to your meat pie, Greg? Yeah, I think you might be right. Okay, so have we had these words before? I feel like I recognize that. Reniera, Zinniera. I think we just have a lot of Nieras in there. Niera being mix/blend and pair. Oh, wait, no. This just means imperative is the Niera, I think, right? Yes. So Niera is imperative. Okay, is this, I feel like this is really easy. Am I crazy? Like, I feel like there's no like weird changes when it compounds. Like, is this the like agglutinative versus fusional thing? Like, it's all very tidy, other than that one thing where like I think we lost an L. I think is the only thing that's been weird here. Is this abnormally easy? Inquiring minds would like to know. Okay, so we have that. So then what else do we have? I feel like, have we seen that before? Maybe not. Gabor, Ama, Ariel, Trera, Yemi, cool. Ram, we know means and. Greg says it does feel easy and neat, but they have no experience in a ConLang relay. I mean, honestly, maybe it's just like a pretty simple language. Like, again, it looked pretty simple, which is why I picked it. Like, it looked very, I didn't read any of this beforehand, but it looked short. So maybe that was just, which this is a good sample. This is a good trying it out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, nothing. Yeah, exactly, Seb. Pretty concise, simple enough, no massively complex grammatical structures. Yes. Okay, so betray, AOBE, tray. So, oh, right, we're back to our dough. So we're doing something with our dough. Oh, hello, Bib. Okay, Bib agrees that it's definitely on the easy side. Okay, also hi. Hello, welcome. Bavilia says, it feels easy, but I suppose part of that could also be that the writer has very much pared down the language so we don't get lost in the 10 genders, etc. that were mentioned. That is a good point. And maybe it all just, like, ended up being relatively simple, like, in combination of, like, if this is a recipe, obviously, so that's a very limited forms, right? R-A-O, to mold or to knead. Is that what that is? R-A-O-Z-R-A-E. Yeah, to knead. Knead the dough. That one's pretty easy. So knead the dough. And we'll do that there. Welcome back. Hello there. All right. So I feel like we saw Trebor before, but I could be wrong. Balls or spheres. I feel like we're kneading the dough and forming it into balls or something. Balls. But spelt correctly would be helpful. Yes, okay. I think we're close to finishing this, and then we can start seeing how unprepared I am to do this with mine. Oh, it's gonna be, the size of, or sized. So, sized towels. I wonder if they added the dashes just to be helpful, or if that's actually part of their language to do that between compounds. Okay, towels is not a thing, but I bet it's just an object. So, yes, towels is a thing by itself, so large. So, this is large. E is our object gender. LP is seed. Okay. Seed. Interesting. Yummy. Let's see. It. Right, we did see that before. So it. Cool. KUL. An indirect object is indicated by the suffix and is usually attached to the verb. So, indirect object. So, raisey is probably our verb, which means to make. So, we started with that one. So, to make. Okay. So, we start with this. So, we're making it. So, make. And then we're adding an indirect object. So, make it, I guess, maybe. And make it. So, these are going to be balls, large seeds. Is that really what that meant? Seed. Large object. Seeds. So, okay. Subject, object, verb. Large seeds that are ball-sized? Make it into balls the size of a large. Yeah. Yeah. So make it. Yeah. So we have make it, and then make it. So and balls, and I feel like the and is inconsistently placed in different places. And balls, large seed, make it to balls, size of large seeds. Could be walnuts, coconuts, avocado pit sized. Oh, now we're thinking it's a dumpling recipe. Into balls the size of large seeds, and that is a compound. So I feel like, yeah, large seeds probably means a thing. So we could go like, I like the idea of walnuts. I feel like I wouldn't call a coconut a seed. You know what I mean? But a walnut maybe. So we'll say walnuts. Okay. So we went down to our pinch of salt. So now we have knead the dough and make it into balls the size of large seeds. So that's pretty good. So then we have this bottom one here, which Do I recognize any of these words? I don't think so. I'm sure I'll change my mind, but let's start with this. Oh, wait, balls or spheres. Okay, so we do already have the, yeah, okay, I just can't read. Balls, and AL is a thing. Oh, it's pluralized. Okay, so ball, plural. Okay, yeah. And Elma is water. Oh, yes, I didn't look up high enough. Yep, Emma is water. And Ariel, I feel like we've had that before. No, we haven't. Okay. So this is, must be multiple things. Oh, real is turns a verb into something. So we'll add our question mark, because we don't know what it's adding it into. But I'm assuming it could be watery something if it's an adjective, or I don't know. We'll get there. So we have AI, which is do. So we're taking a verb and turning it, I guess, into it. So doing, water, prairie, prairie, flatten. Okay. So we're doing something to the balls, our dough balls, and we are flattening. Oh, you're right. On the previous lines, ball is singular. Into a ball the size of large nuts. Good call. And so is seed, the size of a large seed or a walnut. Maybe it is a coconut. That sounds like a better size comparison. Okay. So doing and then water. So if we're combining this, if this is subject, verb, flatten, and then to do something, that would be a participle. So like doing. So is this just like flattening water balls? Because that's all one word. So water doing flatten. Water doing flatten. Which I feel like this is flattening, right? Flattening water balls. Are we missing something? Oh, wait, no. Emma is hand. Emma is hand, not water. Wow. Emma is hand. So flatten the balls by hand, I think is what that means. Yeah. Air is like AI is do, and real is like that doing, right? Makes that doing. I don't think AIR is. No, that's not a separate thing. Yeah, so we're flattening the balls by hand. Or I guess flatten the balls by hand. I don't know. By hand, flatten the balls. It means kind of the same thing, but flatten the balls by hand. Yeah, it is weird that it turns from singular to plural. The thing we have to keep in mind here with this being a ConLang relay is we can't, like, this is number what? What was this number? 5 out of 11? So this has already been translated multiple times. So there's a possibility that there was a translation error somewhere through where like a plurality was missed or something was otherwise messed up here, right? Like, we don't know that this made sense or that they, like, if they translated it, we don't know if they then massaged it to make it sound better in English, or if they just left it as exact of a translation as they could, or someone could have made a mistake somewhere, right? Like, this is all the joys of the telephone aspect of this. Okay, so we have flattened the balls by hand. Maybe, are we just making meatballs? Is that all we're doing, is making meatballs? I think this is just meatballs. That's my new theory. Okay, so we just did this one, right? So then we need these last two. So let's move these down. Boom. Do this and this and this. Copy these. Duplicate all of them. Okay. So let's start with the easy ones that we already know here. We have and, we have and. That's the only ands. We know this is like connecting clauses, so we'll do that. I feel like we've had that before. Have we? Yes. That was this whole thing, right? Bib says, yeah, the further in the relay you are, the less you can rely on context to help you with the translation. Yeah, it's kind of scary. Actually, no, I don't think we can copy that. I think we can copy this part and this part. So I think it's to put / place and then it's imperative. So this part, I think, is to put / place. And then the last part is our imperative. Careful, that's missing the M on the end. Yeah, because it wasn't exact. And then we have Nira here. So this is imperative there. This is imperative there. Imperative here. Okay. We have an RIL, which was that's our question mark, question mark, question mark. RIL. Do we have this anywhere else? I don't see anywhere. We have an AL, which I'm going to mark as plural. That's what AL means, right? AL, yes, is a pluralizer. So that's all of those. All right, what are our other pieces? Bib says, that's why I was glad I went so early in the Conlanging relay, but then it turned out not to help very much. Honestly, that was so cursed. If I do agree to do it this year, I mean, I know he said it's not going to be anywhere close to, like, there's a lot more rules. It's going to be shorter. It's going to be less crazy. But still. Which I don't know if you caught the context for this, Bib, but I'm basically trying to figure out how much of a horrible disaster it would be for me to attempt a Conlang relay. So we're doing this sample leg to translate it into English, and then I'm going to attempt to just sort of see how much I would have to do to translate it into my spell language. And spoiler, the answer is probably, this is a horrible idea, don't do it. I'm not ready yet, right? I'm assuming that's the case, but we'll see. Okay, so what else do we know? Let's see. I don't recognize that. Do I recognize that? Yes. We do have Zusai. That means meat. Is it? Wait, right? Zusai. Meat. Yeah. So Zusai is meat. And then we have, I feel like we've had that before too. Let's see. Trebor. No, but it's a word all of its own, which is circle. Okay, and adding the T makes it balls. So we have circle. A circle. Okay. So circle. I will say, so far this part is pretty fun, but I feel like, again, this is a pretty straightforward example. So, I keep looking up too high. Okay, so Raybor, I feel like we had this somewhere else too. Oh no, I already added it in both places. Okay. So we need Traer. Feel like okay, no. So that's not something by itself. Treor. Um Treor. So it has to be maybe a compound of some tr. Um Okay, maybe not. Treor. I'm not seeing anything. Treo. It's definitely Treor. OR. There's nothing extra here. Maybe that's supposed to be balls and they missed some of the letters? Because I'm not seeing what that could be. Yeah, I don't know what Treor is. Let's skip down here to bin, which is, bin yin is half. So if we have bin yin, so this is half. Okay. And then we have ber imsa. That's a word all by itself, which is to fold. So fold the circle in half. Bib says, in my experience, a lot of the difficulty comes down to your position in the relay order and how generous the person before you is with their documentation. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, so Torah is a thing, which means oven, usually for pottery, but also used in foreign cooking. So oven. We're putting something in the oven. Treor, again, don't know what that is. Reru is to bake or to cook. I think we've seen that before. Bake. Okay. Is this something? It is. That means brown. Okay. Brown. Although it's weird that there's a ram in the middle and not a space. Kind of interesting. Yellow. So maybe like yellow brown, but then I don't know why there's an and in the middle. Okay, that's not something by itself. KAO. The suffix is attached to the end of a verb stating the condition. So, oh yeah, can have, yeah. So this is our because of this. And then this is our conditional. Conditional. Brown and yellow might be a compound for golden brown or the like. But don't you think it would just be brown yellow as a compound? Or, I mean, I guess it could be whatever, right? There's no way to say it actually works like that. Okay. Meunier is not something by itself, so maybe it's like MEN and so ME is to describe or to be. So I assume that's to be like. And NY is it EO? So ME is to be like or to describe. What was that again? To describe, to be, to describe. And then NYE is authoritative. So authoritative. Okay. And then Yeru is AL Yeru is third person plural object. It's. So this whole thing is it's. Okay. Reru. We've done Reru before, haven't we? Did we just do that? Yes, no. Oh yeah, we did right here. So oven, trayer, bake. So Reru is bake. Marlon Seblon says hi. Hello, welcome to our shenanigans here. Utaupi is to stop. Okay. To stop. Let's figure out what we've got here. All right, so I still don't know what triar is, but we've taken the dough, we've kneaded it, we've turned it into our flattened balls, right? So then we are going to place them place the meat place in the circle, on a circle, something circle. Welcome back, Aaron. Still don't know what trayer is. Fold the circle in half and bake it in the oven something. So bake in the oven. And then we're conditional, so probably like bake in the oven. And this is, okay, so the conditional is what links to because of this, which when we did this before, conditional because of this, where did we have this before? Okay, here we go. So conditional because of this, we did, it needs this, so if it's the same here, so it needs to be, so once it looks yellow brown, because of this, stop baking it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Bavalia, yeah. Bake it in the oven, stopping when it's brown and yellow. So once it looks yellow-brown, then stop baking. Something trior, something like that. So place the meat. Greg thinks it could be place the meat in the circle. Bavalia, I think this is some kind of meat pastry, and trayer is a term along the lines of former ball. That could be because ball slash, maybe it means flattened ball. No, because that would have been maybe it means like discs or something. Maybe if it does, then place the meat in the balls. So place the meat in the, yeah, because we flattened the balls by hand, so placing the meat in the dough disc things, in the, we'll just say flattened balls. In the flattened balls, fold the circle in half and bake the flattened balls in the oven. Once it looks yellow brown, then stop baking. Yeah, some sort of meat pie, folded pierogi style. Yeah, I think so. Place the meat in the disc, fold it in half, then bake it in the oven. Yes. Flatten the balls by hand, so we could call them disc. It could be a missing word from the dictionary. It's possible, but I feel like it's got it, because like the only thing to put them on, right, the meat is the dough, right, which is in a flattened ball shape, so it has to mean something like that. Place the meat in the flattened balls. Fold the yeah, and right now it's a circle and we're folding it in half. Fold the circle in half and bake the flattened balls in the oven until and once they look yellow brown, stop baking. I think that's what we got. All right, so I think what we should do is look at what the actual translation is, like what they translated it to, just to see if we're on the same page. I assume we are, but I figure we can check, and then we can start trying to put this into my language. So let me copy the link. And then, how's this going to work? Hold on. I'm going to just pull this up, copy their smooth translation, and paste it here for us to compare. Okay, so they say, to make good tasting meat bread, mix ground grain, vegetable oil, and salt. If you need to, add water. Set the dough aside. Cut cooked meat and mix it, onions, spices, and a bit of salt. Knead the dough and make it large, seed-sized, and spherical. Flatten the balls by hand. Put the meat on the circles. Fold the circles in half and bake in the oven. If the circles are yellow-brown, stop baking. Look at us go! All right. I think we did a pretty good job. And I think that, I think we did a pretty good job. I'm going to keep ours. Because, I don't know. I feel like we had some fun with this. Okay. So the translation part wasn't that bad. Again, I think, Bib's probably very right that if I don't have good documentation, and if it doesn't make sense with context, right? Only so much you can do. Thank you, Greg. That's the first time I've ever translated something before, other than in Spanish class in school, which is very different. Okay, so all of this stuff is now irrelevant to us other than this, right? So I can copy this. And we can probably make a new file that's we'll call it sample translation, and it's going to be an MD file again. Okay. So I think what we probably need to do is break it down into how I would need to do it, which I think would be very similar to how they did it, right? Because we're fairly similar in terms of the language structure, I think, in terms of it being SVO and the way they combined stuff. So I don't know what that's called, but I guess we can break it down. Let's add a to-do list for the, what is it called? A glossary? Vocabulary. We'll just say to-do list vocabulary of words we're going to need to create. And then we'll have a separate sections. Hello there says, are you going to translate it like a spell or just in general? We're going to do it just in general. Although this is very similar to the spell structures that we already use. We have conditional, we have imperative commands. The imperative commands are basically what it's doing here, right? That's right. So I think it's actually going to be relatively straightforward. I'm kind of scared to start. Okay, let's start easy and just write down all the nouns and start with that, because I feel like that's the easiest thing. Yeah, let's go with meat pies, because I think, or well, they're not, yeah, we'll call them meat pies. Greg would translate as a spell. It would be more fun. I don't like if I'm doing this as a relay, I don't want to mess with it like that, I don't think, because there's no reason in the translation to make it into a spell. Bevilia says cast the spell of turn ingredients into good food. I mean, yeah, it could literally be a spell of making a meat pie. Like you could think about it either way because I think structurally it still works like that. Okay, so to-do list vocabulary. Let's actually do a table because what we're gonna need is we'll start with like nouns. So we'll need the noun. We'll need probably compounds. Let's do that for now because most of my nouns that I've been building are compound based where I build them up from smaller things because the spirits do not have a ton of different individual like words for like super specific things. So like they wouldn't have a word that means meat pie because why would the wind spirits care about your meat pie, right? Like they would not care. Although now that I'm thinking about this, isn't one of the things that went like crazy in the Conlangery thing that they didn't have meat or something and they used the word flesh instead or something weird like that, and that's how it started going downhill? Because it was dragons and we're basically using like wind spirits that I don't know. I don't want to be a problem. Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. So to make good tasting, so good tasting is an adjective, which we're not going to worry about right now. But we basically need meat pie. And for the compound, I agree that I would probably have some word that means like, so meat, obviously, I would need, and then I feel like, would they have a word for pie? Because what they have is just dough, which I don't even know if the spirits would have a word for dough. But let's say I had a word for that. It would have to mean like pie or dough or something. Yeah, I agree, Bavilia. The chaos is in the incidental chaos of repeated translation rather than the deliberate mischief. Exactly. And I think I am too beginner to know how to gauge intentional mischief, so I should just not. Oh, Love is Grim says, hello, welcome. Pie could be cake. That's true. Meat cake. I don't know if they would have any of those words, though. Like, I might have to mix it up a lot more where dough means like, because I feel like plants, they would understand plants. So it might literally mean like, it might be a really crazy compound word where it's like formed flour, like formed wet flour. But then it wouldn't be wet anymore because it's a pie, so it'd be formed cooked wet flour. Might be what I need to have because like I don't think I have. They wouldn't have a word for that. I don't think they would. So the next thing is flour, which I think they would have, or maybe like grains. Although they did that too. They had like ground grains, which is probably actually what mine would have too, like ground grains. Formed, filled, wet flour. Yeah. Formed pie. I guess it doesn't have to be cooked. Formed, filled, wet, ground grains. So yeah, flour would be ground grains. And then vegetable oil. I feel like this would simply just be vegetable oil or green plant oil, maybe. Although not all vegetables are green, obviously. I feel like they would have a word for vegetables or like plant oil, maybe. Plant oil. The filling is what makes it a pastry / pie rather than bread. That's a good point. So it would have to be filled. Filled, yeah. So it could just be like, I don't have a word for with, but like formed wet ground grains filled with meat. Like, could be the thing. Like, so formed. Wonder if it could be wet ground grains filled with meat. Actually, with meat inside. Wet ground grains with meat inside. I feel like that is what I would use given the words that I already have now. Wet grains could also be beer. Yes, they could also be beer. But wet ground grains. Maybe. Okay. So we have vegetable, so then we need salt, which I don't see any reason for them not to have salt. I mean, it could be like rock dust or salt. I feel like they could have a word for salt. It's a thing of it's a natural thing, right? Salt. So I feel like they would have a specific word for that. I think that's going to be my rule. Of anything that is by itself naturally occurring, they would have a word for, because that just makes sense, right? For a spirits that are one with, the world and everything, right? Like, they are there to keep balance in the world, so they would have words for those types of things. So we'll say they have a word for vegetable oil. So they know salt water from fresh water. Yeah, I think they would. The term for salt could be derived from sea water, maybe, or maybe it's just its own word. I think that's how they got it. Like, I think it was like dissolved water is how the other people got the word salt. But I don't know. I feel like they just have a word for that. I like seawater taste for salt. That would be fun. So there would have so there have a world like material and rocks. There would be a word for that. Yeah. Okay, so let's do what's next. It needs water. They would definitely just have... Oh, wait. They have a word for liquid. They don't have a word for water. They have a word for liquid, which sort of means liquid and water, or just thing that is wet is what they have. So actually, this would probably be vegetable, and then they would probably use their word for, like, liquid. Vegetable liquid is probably what they would call that. Because I don't think oil they would have a word for in this case. Perhaps sea rock. Actually, that's potential, like ground sea rock. I mean, it could be something like that, but they might also just have a word for salt. Okay, so add water to the dough and put it aside. So we would need a word for dough, which would just be wet ground grains, right? That would just be dough, whether it's cooked or not. Oh, do they know fat, as in vegetable fat? I don't know. Maybe they would have a word for fat. I feel like maybe they could have a word for fat. Vegetable liquid fat? Or vegetable fat liquid, maybe? I think that could make sense. Bavilia says, thing which is wet for water. Getting flashbacks to this months of debates of whether water is wet. Yeah, I mean, so because they are, like, I feel like the concept of water, like, having a specific word for water is so... I don't know, because they're like wind spirits. They bring the rain, right? So I feel like there's this more high-level concept of, like, the rain and water as something that's not just, like, water, right? It refers to, basically just, like, the liquid, you know what I mean? Like, we would translate it to water, but, like, for them, it's like, this is the liquid thing, you know? Yeah, Greg, but, like, animals have fat too and stuff like that. So, like, I feel like, you know, maybe like this itself wouldn't have a word, which is why it would be a compound, maybe. So then we have cooked meat. So we already have meat. Mix it with onions, which I feel like they would just have a word for onion. Like, it's a type of plant, so I feel like they'd have a word for it. Like, I feel like they'd have words for all the plants. But I think it would be like the onion plant. So onion plant, and then the onion is the root of the plant, right? So I think that's how they'd have a word for the plant, but then you'd need to add a specifier for the part of the plant. So onion plant root, right? I think that's how they do it. And then we need herbs, which as a general category, a spirit probably wouldn't have, but they could have a word for like aromatic green stuff, right? Like maybe like smelly green leaves. Do the spirits have a word for essence or the like? So like vegetable liquid essence? They actually they have a word that essentially means like that which is of itself, which could mean essence. So they could potentially use that. That which is of itself as essence. I could try to build a noun out of that. Right now, it is a... I'd have to look at what we've used it for, but we do have something that means that. Because then it could just be like vegetable liquid essence, which I kind of like that. I feel like it would be complicated, but it would be, I think, the way that it would be used. So I think that's fine. Flavor plant for herb. Potentially, yeah. The problem is like so many plants have smells and flavors that it's like it's hard to... Maybe they wouldn't have a word. Maybe it would just be like ground leaves or maybe dried ground plants as herbs. Dried ground plants. I feel like they need something to say that it's more than just like, I don't know. Smelly. There's no way to know that it's dried. They could be fresh herbs. So maybe we just go like, all plants have flavor, but not all plants are known for their flavor. Yeah. Maybe it just could be like tasty, smelly leaves. Although I don't know why they would have a concept of taste. Because like they don't eat. So I don't know if they'd have something with taste. Ahmad Ali says, "Are you done with your world building guide?" No, it will go on for forever. No, I don't know. The next part is going to come out on Thursday on the new channel, so you can keep an eye out for that. Let's go with... We'll go with smelly ground leaves, because when you say herbs, you assume that they're like chopped up in some way. So we'll say like smelly ground leaves or something like that, because they would have a word for that. And then we would need a word for... We already have salt. Oh, I missed previous streams, so I don't know if this is relevant, but this is where I'd look at reduplication for emphasis in a conlang that had that. So like flavor plants. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's possible. Like that could be grammatical. So could consider reduplication for emphasis, i.e. flavor plants to mean like tasty, right? Very flavorful slash tasty plants. Okay. So like, yeah, that would be something that if I were doing this right now, I would have to come up with what that would look like. Or just, I guess that is a thing. Okay. So we have the cooked meat. Mix it with onions. Oh wait, we already did that. So we have dough already. I would need a word for ball. Ball, which I feel like ball would just I feel like they would either have something general that's just like round thing, like thing that is round, um, round thing, or it would be something like that it's like something that is a ball. So like shaped like the sun, or because I don't feel like they'd have a word for ball. Or maybe like what's something fruit shaped? Yeah, most fruit are that's a good point. Are fruit are most fruits are round. Yeah, so it could be like berry shaped maybe, or like yeah. That's true. I think peach slash apple. Yeah, so it could be specific. So like orange shaped, orange being the fruit. So it would be the orange plant, and then that would be the fruit of the orange plant shaped for how we do this. Yeah. Okay. The size of a large seed or walnut. And if we're doing these, it's probably like the size of I mean, it probably is like the size of like a mandarin orange, right? Or a tomato. Does that seem like a reasonable shape here? Um so large seed. Which I mean, I could directly translate that to large seed. Like they would absolutely have a word for that. Or maybe we could go like onion sized. I feel like it would be a little smaller than that. So it's a little bit smaller than like a tomato or an onion. Um, a lemon or like a lime. A lime. I feel like a lime is the right size. So lime plant fruit. Lime plant fruit. Yeah. So then we have flatten the balls by hand. So by hand, I feel like they wouldn't use hand as a noun. I feel like we'd form that another way. Oh, hailstones, large hailstones. Honestly, though, that's pretty smart, Seb. Um, oh yeah, but Billy is saying that's the neat part. The recipe doesn't actually specify the size, and it's entirely possible the first species writing this is the size of fairies of myth, and so their balls are the size of most seeds. That's true. That's true. That's a good point. Okay. Place the meat in the flattened balls, fold the circle in half, put them in the oven. So we would need to have a word for oven, which they would not have a word for oven, so it would be like hot earth container is probably how they'd say that. Because like pot is like container of liquid. So I feel like hot earth container would be what they'd use to refer to an oven. Or hot earth box, maybe. No, I don't think they have a word for box. So it'd be like hot earth container. And once they look yellow brown, stop baking. Okay, so I think these are all the nouns that we need to create, which isn't too bad. It's not too bad, right? We could definitely do that. So then we have okay, verbs. I think maybe from here we need to break it into the parts more to figure out what would be, you know. Abavilius says, do they have the concept of cooking because they could use thing that is used for cooking? Cooking. I feel like they would have a word for edible. So like something that is like edible making thing. Edible making thing. Maybe something like that. Could be what we're going with here. Okay. So yeah, so I feel like from here I need to figure out how we would structure a lot of this because like some of these we might not use adjectives for adjectives, right? Like I feel like there could be a sense of that. So let's just go sentence by sentence, I guess, and think about this and then add to the list as we go. But okay, so to make this. So this would be the conditional, right, where it's not a thing yet. So we would have a conditional statement. And then, yeah, which that's sort of like labeling what's happening. So in order to do this, right? So it's a conditional statement. And then, let's see, to make. So we have the verb to make, good tasting meat pies, which I feel like for us, we would have the word that means edible, which I was just talking about this. To say edible, because that's the adjective. Let me go down to where were all my notes that I haven't finished working into here. Excuse my crazy scrolling. So happy reflexive, so it makes a predicate theta verb. Okay, sorry. This is what I was talking to Jesse about, and so I'm trying to understand what we decided to do. So if happy is a verb, so tasting edible or to be edible or to be able to be eaten, you would not have a reflexive suffix if it is an adjective. So I guess edible. So we can have edible is an adjective. We do need the reflexive suffix. So if we have a adjective that is edible, then we would use the edible adjective and then add a reflexive suffix. And that is to, I guess, to be something that is edible. Yeah, so, because that's sort of like this, right? So conditional, happy, reflexive. So we would want our conditional marker, edible, reflexive. So yes. And then we would need, sorry, I feel like I'm jumping around a lot. I feel like this part is going to be a little harder to follow. So of them, their happiness being happy. So we're talking about them is the subject. So our subject here is this. This is our, right? To make good tasting meat pies. How did they do this in their example? Hold on. Because they're SVO. So to prepare food, and then it's at the end. Oh, Greg says, on a technical note, I'm 14 seconds behind on His side, I don't know if anyone else is the same. Right-click stats for nerds and live latency. I don't. Stats for nerds. I don't think I have anything called stats for nerds. I don't know what that is. Unless that's something in YouTube. Oh, well, that's good to know at least that comments will be a little bit extra lagged. I was wondering that earlier because I felt like comments were coming in for things that like we'd kind of talked about a little bit earlier than I would normally expect, but I guess that's okay. Okay, yes. So, what was we saying? Okay, so edible, so conditional, edible, adjective, reflexive, and then meat pies. And so subject, third person, animate, because we were talking about the flowers. And so if the subject is, I feel like we need a topic marker for this, right? Talking about meat pies. Or no, because it's still to you, right? So I don't think we need a subject at all because we're saying in order for you to make meat pies or for people in general to make good tasting meat pies. So I think that we wouldn't need a subject. So we would just have this part. We can have a future. Whatever. I think this would be future because it's conditional future. So in order to conditionally having something edible or being edible, but we still need to add how to put meat pies in here, which, is edible the most accurate adjective you'd have here? I feel like they'd have the concept of preferences, even if they don't have one of taste. So to make that people prefer meat pies. Maybe they'd have. Yeah, so maybe there'd be a slightly different way to put that. So let's do edible or good tasting. We don't have to figure out exactly what it would be right now. Favorable, right? But we'd want to have something there, right? Some word there, adjective, reflexive, futuristic. And then yeah, favorable. Some way to say that. We'd also have to figure out how would I add additional adjectives in, like where those would go on a noun. I feel like those would be added as maybe determiners on the noun, which go after the noun, maybe. So I feel like maybe we'd have our word for meat pie here, and then this is the object, right, of this sentence. So actually, meat pie? I think that's what it would be. Maybe. Oh, this would be a mess if I had to do this. Okay. So the condition of having this. So we need a way to link the clauses, which, so the condition of having a future meat pie, which I don't have something right now. So we'd have to add a way to link clauses, which if I go back to our grammar and down to the notes for clauses, would that be like a relative clause or something? I'm not sure, but I feel like there would be a way to link that or add that there's something relating to it. So that would be a bit complicated because I assume there'd be more ways, like complicated ways to do that. I have no idea to where I would even start with that. But then we get into the first command, which would be mix flour, vegetable oil, and salt. Which I actually don't have a way to say and right now. So I feel like because you have to mix them together. Oh gosh, how would you say that? I'd have there need to be a way to link things, right? Because I feel like what I was thinking about doing before was to just be like, to say them separately. Like you mix this, and you mix this, but you have to combine them together, right? So I feel like it would be like mix flour with vegetable oil with salt is sort of, I feel like, what the translation would be. So make flour, oil, salt mixture. Maybe. But I feel like with the way we compound, that would get confusing. Because, like, you would know if it makes something. Bib says, for what it's worth, in about half of all languages, the word for and is the same as the word for with. Oh, okay. So what we could have is essentially basically our imperative command. So we would need the imperative participle. We'd have to decide how like strong, like I would recommend you do this, or I welcome. It would probably be an I welcome, the welcome version. So I welcome you to, because you're not actually ordering someone to do this, right? And then we'd have to mix, right? So verb, which to mix, to combine would be I feel like maybe there could be a word for mixture and then a creation verbalizer. So mix, right, would be to create a mixture. So we need to add a noun for mixture. Oh, you were ordering them too, though? This is explicitly a list of things that the writer/speaker is instructing the person to do. We'll have to think about that. We'll have to think about ordering. Because the way the people wrote it before, this was sort of separate, I think. So I think it might have been more like this, where this is like the title, right? Kind of thing. I think that's sort of how it was structured. So I feel like this would be like step 1 is do this. This is step 2. This is step, right? To mix, these are wind spirits. They know how to kick up dust and mix with various grains in a gust of wind. Yeah, they do. But I'm just saying, like, the way they create verbs is like a lot of it is like noun, and then the verbs are created by usually taking a noun and verbalizing it. That's how most of them are created, unless it's something that is already a verb. Okay. So yeah, create the mixture and then create a mixture. Where were we? Mix flour, vegetable oil, and salt. If you're saying to mix something, those are indirect objects. We can, what's the word? Incorporate indirect objects as long as they're not. Oh, wait. Hold on a second. I need to pull up my grammar. I'm confusing myself. Where is my section on incorporation? Cannot incorporate proper nouns or indirect objects. But those are direct objects. Mix this, this, and this. Those are all direct objects, right? So I think those would all be incorporated, but we need to combine, like, say this and this and this. So would all of those, all of the direct objects be incorporated? Or would we have a way to say, like, mix these things and then link them afterwards? I guess that's a grammatical question of, would I incorporate a list of direct objects or say these and then list them separately? I feel like we could have, like, a linker in there that would, like, a list of things. I feel like that could all be incorporated together. I feel like that would make sense. Um, so mixture create, so we would have the words for flour, which I'm just gonna write the high level words because we know those would be, like, compounded down here. But flour, vegetable oil, and salt. And then we would need to have our linking word, which would be with or and, right? So word for with / and vegetable oil and salt. Yeah, so mix flour, vegetable oil, and salt. I feel like that line is doable. Okay. All right, so the next one is more complicated. So it needs water, or was it if it needs water? Or was that, hold on one second, let's go back here. What did they say it was? If you need to add water. So if it is needed, add water. So if needed. So conditional if. How would we say that? Let's start with add water to the dough. Let's start there because that's probably the next isolated part. So basically, this would just be make the dough wet, I think. I think that's what it would be. So I think what this would be our word for wet, or like wet / liquid thing. So liquid cause. So make it wet. And then the dough. So make the dough wet. Yeah, so make the dough wet. And then we'd want to add a conditional, potentially. Make the dough wet while it needs water. So we could basically say while it's dry. So if we look at the grammar, we had a way of doing this based off, it wasn't locative. Where is it? Aspects. Okay, so we would want to add an aspects that it is bounded by a condition, right? So we'd add a, oh wait, hold on. One thing to note, the instruction you've translated imply but don't state that the mixed flour, oil, and salt are the dough mentioned in the next line. Ooh, okay. We'll come back to that. Yeah, so stir. So our example here that we did was stir the solution until it is clear. So I never updated this. This doesn't need a copula. So basically stir it, and then this was our condition until it is clear. But where would we add the telic to the action? Action is bounded by a condition. But I feel like there was something that we realized, because the clauses have to be, what's the word? Like self-contained. So I wouldn't want to add a telic onto the end. Or would I? Maybe I would. Maybe this would be telic. And then we would have something sort of like this. That would essentially be inanimate. Third person inanimate. Yeah. So make the dough wet until we would need like not dry. Add liquid to the dough until it is wet. We would probably need a way to like imply that it's like a good consistency, although the recipe didn't necessarily say that. It's just if you need to add water, right? So saying like add liquid to the dough until it's wet, I feel like could sort of have that same level of specificity. So until we've reached the future condition of it being wet, add water to the dough. Yeah, I feel like that kind of works for this. So let's go reel back and look at what Bavilia was saying, which we haven't stated that the flour, oil, and salt are the dough mentioned in the next line. So we could have liquid cause dough. We haven't specified that this is the dough. I mean, they didn't really specify that in the recipe either, so I'm not sure if it's necessary. Add water to dough if it's not wet until it is wet, right? I feel like we don't necessarily need to link them for the recipe. But and put it aside. So then put it aside. So basically like move the dough away. We could say that. So move would be move the dough over there. So if we go to our grammar and we wanted to say like to move, then we need one of our verbalizers. So let's see, that wouldn't be instrumentative, creational, to cause movement, I think, maybe. So movement or motion, cause. And then we'd be moving the dough, but we'd want to move it over there, which I feel like we do have a way to say that. Started, stopped. We have this somewhere. Is this in our reflexive, proximal, around, inside, behind? No. Away from me. So you can do an ablative to markers to indicate the verb action is done with motion in relation to the indirect object. So we don't want that because our indirect object is the thing we want to move. So we're not saying move towards the object, we want to move the object. So it would be locative. Oh wait, that's towards the indirect object too. Maybe it's implied. So blow wind away from me. I mean, yeah, it would be away from me, essentially. So I feel like, I mean, that's fine. So away from me. Or it would be, because it would be away from you, right? So we would need a pronoun, which you is singular person, speaker exclusive and animate. So it could be she, him, they, or you. They would all mean the same thing. And that would go, but would the lative, I guess it would go on top of, can a pronoun act as an indirect object? Okay. Pavilia is saying the statement is more about the diversion of attention than the physical movement of the dough. I think you're right that that's what it actually means. Okay. All right, so if we were to say move the dough away, we could say something like this, right? If we wanted to say, and because basically you're saying like, and be done working with it, right? So we could do something like that. So if we want to say, and be done working with the dough, we could say to stop. Where's stop? We have a thing for stop. To stop. To stop making the dough? Stop making the dough, maybe? So to make. I feel like how would we work that? What we'd probably want to do is do some sort of more complicated clause thing where we're adding a condition with which to stop, and then no, because it's not related to anything we've done so far. We want to stop working with it. So like we'd have to have some sort of verb that essentially means like to work with. I don't know exactly what that would mean, and then we'd add like to terminate. So stop, and then we'd have our dough. Stop working with the dough, right? As just a statement, right? So then we need to say, cut the cooked meat, mix it with onions, herbs, and a pinch of salt. So to cut, use a knife. So knife, and that would be instrumental. I think it's INS. So to use the knife, right, is to cut. So to cut meat, and then cut the cooked meat, and then mix the meat with onions, herbs, and a pinch of salt. So I feel like we just use this similar thing. So create a mixture with the meat. Oh, wait, we need a way to say cooked meat. So cooked. Where would we add an adjective? Off a noun. A determiners normally go after. So I think it would be like that. Let's go over here real quick. Our noun section, which is up higher. Nouns. Where are nouns? Here we go. They would be incorporated into the noun. Yes. Where do I have? Okay, determiners go before a noun. Okay, so it would be cooked meat, where cooked is an adjective. So combine the meat, the vegetable oil. Oh, wait, no. We're doing onions, whatever our word is for herbs, and salt. Cooked meat could be brown meat. Potentially. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. So knead the dough. That's pretty simple. We could do it using the structure we've already used. Turn it into a ball. So it would just be ball create. So creating it into a ball, create a ball. And then actually, hold on. This one's more complicated. Hold on. So make it into a ball. So things that is a ball, create it into a ball. Create a ball using, so there would be a way to link it So I think there's like an instrumentative. I can't ever remember the words for these. I apologize. Instrumental. So with the dough. So with our meat mixture. So I feel like we'd have a word for like meat mixture. So create a ball using our meat mixture. And then we need to say the ball is the size of a large seed. So we need to have a way to make like an adjective. Or so I think we could do this one of two ways. We could either add a like conditional statement saying like a ball is the size of a large seed. Which I think would probably make the most sense. So we'd have a this, and then instead of wet, this would need to essentially say size of a large seed, which size of a large seed. The size of a large seed. Do I have anything currently in the language that could be used for that idea? Yeah, I see what you're saying about browned instead of cooked. Yeah, I'd have to do something like browned or something. I just distracted myself. Size, to say something is a size. I feel like there was something we talked about. No, not distributive. I mean, it's an adjective, but we talked before about doing something weird down here. So if we're trying to say this is like sized like a whatever, not all adjectives are verbs. A verb. Sized, the size of this. That's complicated. Okay. It doesn't sound complicated. I mean, I could just have an adjective that just means like smallish or sized like this. Like I could have noun sized, right? Or would that be a blank sized? Sized like? Sized like. What type of speech is like? Okay. Okay, well, it can be used as like 87 different things. Preposition, participle, conjunction would be a conjunction. Conjunction or a participle. As or as if, no. So participle would be the state of being. I mean, I guess it could be a participle, right? Maybe. I'm not sure. Let's just add that to the list. We don't have to figure it out now, but way to create an adjective for size. So size of a large seed. We'd have to figure out a way to say that, right? Okay. So then flatten the balls by hand. That's easy. That's just saying like probably flatness. So cause flatness of balls, and then you'd add a like using your hands as an instrumental. Place the meat in the flattened balls. We have words for that. That's pretty straightforward. Fold the circle in half would go with the determiner, so we need to make something that would say like in half. Bake the flattened balls in the oven. Again, we have things to say that. We have ways to say this. I feel like we have, even though we don't have all the like the specific words, I feel like grammatically we can say the rest of this. Not quite a determiner, but there's a word, we have it in the grammar somewhere for what that would be called. So, real talk time, people. I feel like this specific example, right? I feel like I could do this in 3 days, right? That translation was pretty easy. We did that in like an hour, maybe like an hour and 15 minutes. So then working this out, like again, we've been working on this for an hour and 20 minutes about, and we've sort of figured out what the overall structure is. We've made a list of all the things we need to create. Creating all these nouns is just going to be a bunch of like, okay, like I need to do random generations on these pieces until I like them. And there might be some things where I have to, tweak it in order to make it make sense. So then the hard part would just be coming up with how to actually do these grammatical pieces, which I feel like this would be doable for me to do, especially if I was able to like consult with someone that wasn't part of the relay. I feel like this would be doable. Now, my worry is what if it's significantly more complicated? Because like what Bib was saying, that there's no guarantee that well, no, because he was saying that there's no guarantee that it'll make sense with context or that they'll provide good stuff. But like that translation was pretty easy. I think I'm less worried about the translation part because Google is a friend, right? And that's an easy part to be able to ask for advice from someone if I ended up getting stuck. So the part that I think would be the worry is just being able to put this into my language. And I'm mildly worried that this ended up being its own, like, it only used conditionals and imperatives, which is all I have. And I could always try to rework things into that, but I don't know. I don't have numbers, right? So I know that's one general category of things that I don't have. And I don't know if I would, in my language, if there would be the concept of numbers. I feel like it would be like there would be more general terminology instead of specific words for that. I'm trying to think. Let me go down to the clauses here. So these are all the clauses that were listed in the Conlang year potential grammar list, things to figure out. So there's relative clauses, participial clauses, infinitive clauses, subordinative or adverb clauses, and then complement clauses. I would potentially have to figure out some or all of these if I were doing this. But how long would that reasonably take? Belia says, well, now you know you can do this one. Is it possible for you to get an example of a harder one to try out? That's an idea. Okay. Hold tight real quick. Let me pull up real quick Discord, because someone in my Discord had an example that I could potentially use. Let's see. From Lennox. Let's see. Let me open this up. Download. Show in folder. Let's see. So it's an Adobe Acrobat and then HTML. Okay, so that's the actual thing to translate, which I don't need to worry about. And I didn't end up using this for this because it uses like a different alphabet, and I didn't want to worry about that right now. Oh, yes. Hi, Greg. Yes, you're still here. Yes. Hello. So yours is quite easy. Does it use any categories of speech that would be a problem, potentially? Trying to pull up. Okay, that's the grammar. Okay. I don't know if it has the oh, yeah. Yeah, and this grammar is quite long because it's the full grammar. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that doesn't have the example in it. But you know what we could do? We can let's pull up the, um I wonder if he has it somewhere. Conlangery, relay. Obviously, that one was really long, but I wonder I apologize if this starts playing sound. Okay, so here is what David Peterson is the first one that came up for me. So, where did he finish the translation? Okay, so I'm going to read this out loud real quick, and then we'll type it up over here. Sorry, I'm making this smaller. I just need to be able to see this. So if we were to do a new thing, oh God, of a sudden you have a vision as if you were prey. It is a vision of a river that has ripped the hands off of the parents of a baby with a tooth. I think you're all getting the idea of how crazy psycho bananas this one got. Okay, so let's just look at that sentence by itself. Okay. And I think if I remember properly, this basically just means you were surprised by a thought. I summoned Bib. But Bib, this is what I have to be prepared for, isn't it? Like, I have to be prepared for this? Emma? I don't know. But I think this meant something like you're surprised by a thought, right? A thought surprises you. I think that's essentially what it meant. God, everyone is so traumatized. It is a thought of a river that has ripped the hands off of the parents of a baby with a tooth. This is the thing where it was about like dragons or something. Of a baby with a tooth. I think that just meant like a child is a baby with a tooth. I think it was like rip the hands off. I don't know. I don't know what it was. To be honest, I have no idea how David got this out of what Miles sent him. I have no idea. But if I were to try to make this, so of a sudden you have a vision as if you were prey. I literally could not even tell you what type of sentence this is. You have a vision. You have. So to have a vision. I feel like I could say this. I feel like I could do that. As if you were prey. So like you were prey. As if you were prey. Because there's all sorts of merging of clauses here. All of a sudden. So, okay. All of a sudden has to be some sort of clause that has to do with the way that the main clause happened, right? So that has to be another type of clause, right? The type of clause that would add additional information or the way the main clause happens. So that would be clause. So additional clause that affects the way the main clause happens would be the first one. So then you have a vision, Pavilion saying, like, from the perspective of prey. You have a vision. Because my first inclination, right, is to try and reduce the clauses in order to say this in a more concise way, which I feel like for a photosynthetic language is not photosynthetic. Wow, I can talk today. But I feel like that's a reasonable approach to take to an extent. But so you have a vision as if you're prey, or you have a vision from the perspective of prey. Could be done as if you were prey. As if you were prey. I mean, it's another statement about the way that it's done, right? Which I feel like these could be linked in order, in any order, right? So as if you were a prey, all of a sudden you have a vision, right? I feel like you could order these in different ways. I don't know if that means anything. Let's go back to the list here and figure out what these even are, or people can just tell me if you want to, but I'm gonna like start Googling things so that I know what they are. A relative clause is a type of dependent clause that modifies a noun or noun phrase in a sentence, providing additional information about it. It's also known as an adjective clause. Adjective clause modifies noun or noun phrase. I don't think that's what we need to worry about. Although, as if you were prey, so you have a vision. If that vision is a noun, you have a prey-like vision. Could that be a relative clause? Or no, that's just using an adjective. Okay. Participial clause, it acts as an adjective modifying a noun or pronoun using a participle, so something earns an ing or ed. So adjective with ing/ed. An infinitive. See, this is the part I struggle with, is like even just understanding what this even is. Infinitive is a dependent clause that begins with an infinitive verb, 2 plus base form of the verb. So 2 plus base form of verb. So infinitive verb. So that we can have a subordinate or adverb clause. Maybe these are not even clauses, and this is something more complicated than that. So a clause typically introduced by a conjunction that forms part of and is dependent on the main clause. Sure. I feel like that's just like a general category, but these side things would be subordinate clauses for sure. And a complement clause is a subordinate clause that functions as a complement and provides additional information or completes the meaning. So could be introduced by a complementizer like that, if, whether, or other WH words. Okay. So of a sudden, so out of nowhere, or surprisingly, or suddenly, I feel it could be some sort of like relative clause, right? So, okay. So I need to figure out how I would do relative clauses. I would need to figure out, let's see, if it's just an adjective. So an adjective could be sudden, right? So it could be sudden and then some way to say this is relative, because I feel like I tend to mark those things of how they link back. So I would probably have some sort of modifier or suffix or affix of some form that would mark it as saying that this is like the relativeness. I feel like I would have something for that, right? Okay, that's not too scary. That's literally just to do that. And then as if you were prey. As if you were prey. So that's a conditional future, but then I feel like you need to add another marker to specify that, which I don't quite. I feel like this is the part I would need the most help from people with, is just being like, I think I understand what this is doing, but what are the words of how to label what this is so I can even Google it and research it? Like, I feel like that's what I would really, really, really need help with. But yeah, there'd probably be another table of how to mark this statement, but I could like that I could say like future conditional prey reflexive. So being prey probably would be what that would be. Okay. So it is a so it is a so I feel like that would it is a vision. That's a type of tense that I don't think I have, like a statement that's something like a statement about things that just are. Um, although I can mostly use that by using a reflexive, I think, is how I would do that. It is a vision of a river. Yeah, there's tense a way to create this kind of tense that is difficult, but it's a vision of a river that has ripped the hands off of the parents of a baby with a tooth. This would just be a noun, right? Like I would just make that a noun through some form of let's get rid of that. Okay, that's deleted. Great. Um what was I saying? This would just be some sort of noun formed together. It is the vision of a river. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. I feel like this is Bib is saying I would imagine present tense would work fine for this since the vision is happening right now, I think. Oh, that's true. That's true. Good point, Bib. Welcome back, Aaron. Yeah. Okay. So it is a vision. So in order to do this with a reflexive, like the stating that like it is being. So the thing that is it is being is a this whole thing. So a vision of a river. Yeah, because that vision is so this is the thing that is this is the vision, right? So I feel like I would have to form this river that has ripped off the hands of a baby the parrot with a tooth. I would probably have to reword this so that I could just like squish this into like a fake noun and then turn it into an adjective that sort of means like vision of or like being like whatever and then stick a reflexive on it. That's my first guess of how I would do this, which might be really dumb. It's a vision. Oh, Bib says everything after river is a relative clause. Oh, so it's a river of a vision. Oh, right, because it's the vision that has done this. That doesn't belong to the river. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, so this would all be separate. So I would have something that would basically this and then add a reflexive on it somehow. I think it is being a vision of a river. Yeah. River vision or yeah, so I would need it inanimate, which would help, I think, provide that context that I'm not talking about like you or the person you're talking to. It's like this thing, right? It, and then reflexive, and then that has. Okay, so relative clause. So again, I need a way to link it, which I feel like an adjective clause. So ripped. This is past tense. I don't have a past tense. I think there would be a past tense, so I'd have to make the past tense. So rip the hands off, which would probably just be like hands terminate or hands something like that, right? Whatever. I would create a verb for this through some form of verbalizing suffixes. So it is ripped, and then the parents of a baby with the tooth. Parents of a baby with the tooth. That is a noun. right? Like this is kind of creating a noun. So parents of a child or a baby with a tooth. I think that means child, right? So the parents of a baby with a tooth. Baby with a tooth. I'm trying to think of how I would say that. With a tooth, which I could just say, I mean, with would be, I could use that word that we talked about adding already for and. I would need something to link these, like parents of. It's because you're adding extra information here about the parents, which I would probably need a way to have that be separate and then have a way to indicate that it is linked to this part of speech. Because for the most part, all of the things that do that link back, if they aren't attached to it, they're linked back to the verb, like the actual action of what we're talking about. So I wouldn't want to say that the action has a baby with a tooth. I would need a way to indicate, unless I would just have to incorporate all of it into there, and it would have to have some sort of weird like determiner building form, which actually it probably would that get incorporated into the noun. And if it gets incorporated into the noun, it would get incorporated into this as a verb that would be part of the relative clause. Aaron says, would the bit after parent be a relative clause? Oh, yeah. Vision of a river that has. I think I could do it that way, but this is a relative clause. Correct me if I'm wrong, because it applies to the river, right? So this is applying to the action of the vision. Sorry, yeah, this applies to the vision. The vision is what ripped the hands off, whereas of a baby with a tooth applies to the parents, not the action of ripping the hands off. So, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not a relative clause. It could just be a relative clause on the parents, right? So then, Aaron, as it is written, it would be a possessive phrase. Ooh, of a baby. Baby with a tooth is possessive. And I guess the parents possess the baby that possess the tooth. So I don't have a way to do a relative clause or a possessive phrase. I'd have to figure out a way to do that. Those are only the first two lines. If I go back, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We'll keep going. They said it was going to be shorter this year. I don't know. I feel like this did not make up my mind. I feel like it would be really hard, but I feel like the hardest part for me would just be wrapping my heads around this kind of stuff. And if I knew when it was coming, which I think for the most part it's going to be scheduled, I can kind of like make a sketch of what these things would be and then fill in what they would actually need, like what they actually would be. If it were a relative clause, it would be something like the parents who had a baby with a tooth. Right. Okay. Yeah. So I would need to do some serious, like, beforehand. I think what I need to do is make sure, like, learn what clauses mean, like, write that up. I could probably find, like, a good video or something somewhere that has examples and, like, ways to identify them in English, and then come up with, like, a high-level sketch of what those might look like in my language, or like how I would do it without actually doing it. And then once I see the example, then I would actually have to flesh out what those specific things are to do that, right? Aaron says I probably should too. Yeah, this is that whole thing where like my entire grammatical understanding is very intuitive and there is nothing like explicitly defined in my understanding. Like I don't know the words for anything at all. Like I understand intuitively how it all works, but that's about it. Greg says I think we all need to club some money in for some grammar lessons. You know what? You know what? If I do decide to do this, or even if I don't, I could probably have a linguist who would volunteer to just come and, like, lecture for us for a few minutes as we try and figure that out. Like, understanding, like, all the clauses and stuff, but I don't know, it could also be something that we just do in, like, a stream. I'm not sure. Um, yeah, Aaron, I feel that. Describing them is hard. I feel I feel like I'm really, like I feel like this is possible, but I feel like I would regret that. I guess the thing is probably, like, I do have my generator, so generating things to mean these isn't that hard. But I mean, that's probably not the hard part anyway. I feel like this might be doable. It would just time-wise, I would need to actually have the 3 full days to work on this. But I don't know. What do you all think? What do you all think? I feel like I don't know how to make a poll, but, like, do you think it would be a mistake for me to attempt this? And if I do, I wouldn't be able to work on it on stream. I'd have to, like, I don't know. I would be able to ask someone for help, but it would be secret until it all comes out, and no one would know. But I would, like, vlog it probably. Mostly just me banging my head against a wall for 3 days straight is probably what it would be. But yes, I want opinions. Do you think it would be a horrible idea for me to do it or not? Greg says the hard part is the translations themselves. Yeah, I think that's true. And this one was pretty easy. No, 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 no. Yeah. Yeah, because if they're really complicated, but, like, I feel like puzzles, like, I'm really, really good with logic puzzles. It's the only reason I ended up being a software engineer is because I really liked predicate calculus, and I feel like translations kind of just reminds me of, like, I don't know. There's something very, like, puzzly and yeah. Yeah, there's something about it that reminds me of that. Bib says, if you're unsure, I would maybe ask if you could go as early as possible in the order. That's a good point. Although if I go as early as possible, that means I'm going sooner. But that would probably still be better because it's not like I'm gonna have time to, like, flesh all of this out. Greg says, what I would suggest is to get a sparring partner and just practice. I am volunteering. Thank you, Greg. Unfortunately, I don't know if I will have time if I'm gonna do it to also practice. Maybe I could do some, like, small translations practices, and that would be reasonable. Like, I can go through and, like, translate yours. That's something I could practice doing. That would actually be a good practice. But, Mib says, to be honest, I'm not sure if my current language is ready for a relay, and I've been working on it for almost 6 years. Oh, no, Bib. Wait, are you gonna do it this year? Have you decided? Is that a spoiler? Do you know if you're doing it or not? I don't know who else is doing it this year, but I would imagine maybe some people have been scared off by it going crazy last year, and if so, maybe less people are doing it, and it would be less difficult. But yeah, like, I'm not gonna work on this for 6 years too, so, you know, it's not if I ever want to be able to do this, I feel like this is probably one of the more thorough conlangs I'm gonna have, unless I'm doing, like, a full language where, like, part of the plot is, like, multiple characters speak different languages and have to figure out how to communicate. Um Yeah, I agree with you, Aaron. I think Bib would be a little bit more ready than other people. And also, I feel like you have a very good understanding of linguistics in general, so I feel like you could wing this stuff relatively quickly. Um Bib would like to, if you can, gives him a chance to make up for what happened last year. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Honestly, the fact that it just went so horribly is just I feel like it's almost as a viewer, obviously not as a participant, but as a viewer, it is really funny that it went so bad. But as a participant, I am sure that would be awful. Oh, welcome back. Hello there. Ooh, you're done. Congratulations. Last year was legendary. Yeah. It is supposed to be not legendary next year, not in the same way anyway. It's supposed to be shorter. It's supposed to be like there's less like cursed things going on in general. Like it's going to be a little bit more smooth, presumably, and hopefully that also means it should come out a lot sooner. But yeah, okay. Okay, I'm going to am I gonna do it? Oh gosh. I might need to sleep on it. I might need to sleep on it. But I feel like I will have at least close to a month probably. Bip says, I'm really slow and deliberate by nature, so I really struggle to get it done within the 2 days. Oh, that's fair. Did you like, is that with dropping everything else and working on it? Or is that with like also doing all of your normal stuff? Because I feel like if I were to drop everything and just have 2 to 3 days, it sounds reasonable, but also maybe it isn't. Aaron wants to know, when is this relay happening? I don't think it's been officially announced yet, but it is imminent, is my understanding. So this is not something that I would have months and months to prepare for. This is something that I need to know, like, with a few weeks or maybe a month or two of preparation, could I be ready to do this? Also, given that, like, I could probably commit a few days to doing it, but I can't commit a ton of other time on top of my current conlanging pace to really do this until at least June. So like I could probably devote a day of prep time in June to getting ready for this. Bib says, yeah, I did pretty much nothing else for 2 days. If you struggle at it, oh, but this was cursed. This was cursed, right? It was really long and it was a hot mess. So, and it got totally messed up right at the beginning. So that made it take longer, right? Greg says, as for the decision, I would just go for it and have fun with it. I suppose if I say I'm going to do it and I fail miserably and I can't do it, I could just pass off what I got to the next person and just be like, I'm sorry, I just wasted 2 days of my life crying. I can't do it. So it's probably not the end of the world if I take a crack at it. Aaron says, I'd love it if I could jump in, but I wouldn't be able to for the next 2 months or so, maybe next time. Yeah, I don't know how the process of like inviting people to do it or if they do a call out for people or if it's I don't know, but like you have videos, so I feel like maybe next year, right? That would be fun. But yeah, okay. Okay, I'm just gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes, and I'm gonna say that I would like to be closer to the beginning and you know, start thinking, I guess I'll need to see the list of people that are involved in it and who aren't, and then maybe find someone who isn't involved. Like, I don't know. I'll have to find who I want my like collaborative expert to ask questions, like who they're going to be. But that's a problem for later once I feel like they have the full list and all of that. But yes, okay. Okay. Aaron says single video. That still counts as having videos. Sort of like it counts. If you're gonna make another one, then it counts. The joy of exams, yeah, fair. Greg says, congratulations on a brave decision. Brave could also mean stupid. Naive. I feel like it is probably a naive decision, but we will go with it. And one day it'll make entertaining video content regardless. Yeah, okay. Okay, so real quick, what are we doing next time? When is next time going to be? Because we're going to be on the new channel next time, right? Which I'm going to put a video out on Wednesday, like warning everyone. But if you want to be nice, the algorithm is probably going to absolutely hate me for a few months because I'll suddenly lose a lot of my subscribers on my one channel. And then it'll take a while for like the other one to build up. And like there's going to be shenanigans with the algorithm. So if you want to be nice and like, you know, just saying, once it's actually set up. But next weekend is Mother's Day weekend. I don't think I'm going to Conlang on Mother's Day. As fun as that would be, I think I'm not going to do that. But the 18th, yeah, the 18th will probably be the next time we do this. And that will involve going through and I need to work in the things so we'll go more thorough over the things that Jesse told me with the alternative for the copula and adjectives, and the way we're changing how my mood verbs work, which aren't going to be mood verbs anymore. So we'll talk about those changes. And then she suggested to, like, you know, my nice PowerPoint I have with all of my cute diagrams and like the way everything works together. She said I should just nuke it and start from scratch with my new understanding of the language to kind of remodel it out. And then from there, I'm kind of at the point where I can just start making, like, actually fleshing out all of my little question marks and building more things. And then once we do that, we'll be looking at getting into the sound changes and the sandhi and stuff like that, which will be a lot. But yes, we'll work on that on the 18th. And the next time will probably be in June, which will be when I'll have quit my job and I'll be doing this and all my writing stuff full time. Which, yes, will be crazy bananas. Absolutely crazy psycho bananas. So yes, 2 weeks from now, we will continue working on this. And yeah, thank you everybody very much for your assistance with this, like, fake. Oh wait, what is Nemo saying? Yes, all for nuking old stuff. The number of times I nuke my language to restart is uncountable. Yeah, fair. I feel like there's already stuff in here that needs to be nuked. And so once I clean this up and then I remake my presentation, then I need to go back into the code and sort of nuke what I have of the grammar in there and start from scratch. So we'll have to start that code section from scratch over too. But yes, thank you everybody for helping out and leading me towards this potentially unfortunate decision, which if it goes horribly, I will absolutely blame all of you for. Not really, but you know. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. I hope you have a good couple of weeks. If, you know, you're involved in Mother's Day in any form, you know, I hope it's a good, or that you do good things for other people in your life, all of that. And what? May the 4th be with you? Right? Yeah. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Gonna end the stream now. Goodbye. Bye.